Um, I want to thank you guys for coming today and being a part of communication class that I have at Tennessee Temple. And this is going on YouTube also. Today, I want to inform you about the dangers of teenagers and alcohol use, and that it can impair their judgment and it can lead to things such as making bad decisions, and they end up sleeping with someone and they end up with contracting HIV and AIDS. There's a government agency, the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. It's one of 27 institutions of the National Institute of Health with the U.S. government. And they came up with some, they've done research all over the world. They're the major funder for the United States and all over the world with alcohol abuse and use. And they come up with some facts and figures, and I also have a personal story that I want to share of how HIV has affected my family and my home. If we look at these stats, teenagers that use alcohol, there's 5,000 people under the age of 21 that die each year from car crashes, homicides, suicides, alcohol poisonings, burns, and drowns. Kids that use alcohol have serious injuries. There's more than 190,000 people under the age of 21 that visit emergency room for an alcohol-related injuries. Kids that use alcohol have impaired judgment. You know, I've been there, I've done that. I know it makes you stupid. Drinking can cause kids to make poor decisions, which then can result in risky behavior, such as drinking and driving, sexual activity, or violence. And kids that use alcohol have an increased risk for physical or sexual assault. Youth who drink are more likely to carry out or be the victim of a physical or a sexual assault. Now, one of the things that I really learned as growing up in a family, there are things that affect us that other people think that I can do as I please and do as I want, and it doesn't really affect anyone else. The story that I have talks about HIV because my little brother was a free bleeder, which meant that a free bleeder, when they cut themselves or they bruise, they can't heal like we do. Their blood doesn't clot normally. So there's some medicine that they give them that's called Factor 8. And Factor 8 actually puts a spider web on that scab, or it even helps heal with inside. And my little brother, when he was 8 years old, he was in a surgery, and the hospital had to give him some medicine. And when they gave him this medicine that was supposed to save his life, it ended up giving him HIV at 8 years old. And I can remember that we didn't know about it for a while. The family went on. Ricky had other things and other issues with a free bleeder. But the worst case scenario in all of this was the fact that not only was my little brother affected, but there was 14 other children that was involved in this. Later on, a lawyer called my family and told my mom and dad the thing. My dad went to the grave with this secret in 1984. But my mama stayed, and she was alive. And I can remember that when Ricky was 21 years old, he was going to Trevecca Nazarene College. He was a singing youth evangelist, worked with youth and talked with youth about not using alcohol and doing the right thing. And he came back through and informed us that he had AIDS, that it was now full blown. This affected my little brother, but it also affected 14 other children. One woman lost 4 kids, 4 children. And this medicine that was supposed to help people harm people, all because it was traced back to someone that was living a homosexual lifestyle, that was doing drugs, And I'm pretty sure that he was drinking. That's just an assumption on my part, but usually when people are doing drugs, they drink along with it. But all this causes me to ask the question, as a parent, how would you feel if your teenager came home and told you, Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa, I went home the other night and you told me to go home, and I started to go home, but I was invited to this party, and I went to the party and I got drunk. And when I got drunk, I slept with somebody. And now I wasn't feeling good, so I went to the doctor. And as I went to the doctor told me that I now have full-blown AIDS. How would you feel? Devastated. Now, I'll remind you the facts that talks that the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism states that increases the impaired judgment of a teenager when they drink. They have an increased risk for physical and sexual assault. They have brain development problems. And all these things my mother and my family experienced firsthand on what happens when someone that's using alcohol that leads to sexual misconduct can also lead to AIDS. And not only do you mess your life up, but you mess everyone else's life up too. So today, I would hope that families would get together and let's put a stop to the spread of AIDS. You know, the one thing that I go back to my mother that I can remember, and this is a picture of my mom and my little brother, I can remember coming home sometimes and seeing her crying and holding my little brother's picture and saying, I miss my baby. I wish he was here. But you can't get him back once that happens. So the main question that I have for you guys today is, you know, if you came home and your teenager was telling you, I got drunk, I made a bad decision, and I got AIDS, and I'm dying, what could do you different? What could we do different as parents? And I believe that today, as we looked at what they've said from the government and the things that I shared about my little brother, then I believe that as parents and teenagers that we're going to want to do right. And we are going to want to inform our kids, and I wanted to inform you guys and let you guys to know just some of the dangers and risks that go along when we let our teenagers drink alcohol that leads to sexual misconduct that can lead to AIDS.